All right, we're back on the Early Wedge. I'm joined by Mike McClure and Jason Sobel, and now it's time to cover the PGA Championship, or at least quickly cover the PGA Championship. We'll take a look at the type of golfer we're looking for, the type of course we're looking at, and of course, some of the odds that are, again, already out for the PGA Championship, maybe some early leans and some early bets. I've already made a bet, so I'll get to that in a little bit. Jason, talk to me about this course. It's obviously at Quail Hollow, the site of the Wells Fargo Championship. Last time the PGA Championship was here, as everybody knows, was in 2017, where Justin Thomas, who, by the way, has been playing very well in 2025, he took it in 2017. We had the President's Cup here in 2022. Par 71, 7,600 yards. Jason, we do lean to some distance here, right? Anything else that's notable in terms of the type of golfer you're looking for?
No, the great thing about being at Quail Hollow this coming week is that we know the golf course. We've seen it on a regular basis. Yes, it's going to play more difficult than it does for the annual PGA Tour stop, but not that much more difficult. I mean, it's in May. I've heard from members at Quail that this place is in as good, if not better condition than it's ever been. It's going to play long. The rough's going to be a little juicier. It may play, I hate to say it, but a little U.S. Open-ish. The last time the PGA Championship was held here, as you mentioned, in 2017, Justin Thomas won with a score of 8 under 276. I hadn't remembered that until I started doing my research and looking into things, but we tend to see PGA Championships where the score is at least double digits under par, if not somewhere in the mid-teens, but didn't happen here last time. There's a good chance that it doesn't happen here again. I am looking at long hitters. I'm looking at guys who have played this course well, but quite frankly, I don't see a winner coming from somewhere very far down the list. I think the winner's coming from the best players in the world. We've seen it happen time and again over the last handful of years that the best players go out there and win major championships. And I love looking for good numbers. I love looking at 80 to 1, 100 to 1 type long shot and trying to find something. I just don't know if there's value there in the outright market this week.
Yeah, I totally agree. Mike, this is definitely going to be a tournament that is going to be on the tougher side. It's unlikely, I think, it's unlikely that we're going to see a double-digit winner in terms of somebody that reaches, 10 under, 11 under. And Josh, our esteemed producer, pointing out that not only did Justin Thomas win at 8 under in 2017, but he was two shots clear of the field. So the next best was 6 under. I mean, that just speaks to what the conditions are likely to be like in terms of a PGA Championship setup, but also a tough course as it is. Mike, when I look at metrics I'm looking for, I hate to reduce it to like some obvious, more global metrics, but distance, tee to green, I think is important, and putting's really important. So I'm basically like tee to green is like the ultimate like cop-out statistic, right? But again, distance, long irons, all of those things. Is there anything from a metric standpoint that you're like emphasizing maybe more than other spots?
I mean, I think you've nailed it with the distance. You definitely, it's going to favor the longer hitters. I mean, like Rory and Bryson, to me, it would be stunning if both of them were in contention. I love Bryson, the way he plays at these major events. He just mentally, he has found it. He's there, and he's just so calculated. He's got the strength to go play good golf. So I'm going to be on Bryson once again. You mentioned tee to green. He does lead this field tee to green in strokes gained over the last 24 rounds, which is pretty incredible when Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy are in the field, who are 2 and 3, by the way. Other things I'm looking at, just, certain proximity buckets, 175 to 200 is probably going to be very, very useful. A little bit of scrambling. I think that we could see some scrambling, but mostly just looking at the elite golfers and then looking at the number that they come in. As Jason said, I would be pretty surprised if the winner didn't come in the top 15 in the odds.
We've got Josh putting up some of the big boy winners at the PGA Championship here. And yeah, I mean, we got Xander, we got Brooks, JT, Phil Mickelson, which was an interesting outlier, at least at the time of Phil Mickelson's career, Colin Morikawa, Brooks, and JT. Jason, go ahead. You had something to add.
So listen to Johnson Wagner. I believe he was on the 5 Clubs podcast. Johnson's a member there as well. And he said, the course changes, and they're subtle course changes, still going to look like the Quail Hollow we've seen year after year, but the course changes they've made, it's very much akin to when Augusta National, quote unquote, tiger-proofed their golf course by making it longer and essentially playing into the hands of the guy they're trying to proof it from. The fact that they have made these changes and lengthened Quail Hollow a little bit, it essentially plays into the hands of Rory McIlroy, who's won 4 times there before. So I do think that Rory's going to go out there playing freer golf. That swing, I know that he's missing fairways all over the place at Philly Cricket, and I'm not too concerned about that. I feel like he's swinging freer and easier than he ever has before. It's going to be really, really difficult to beat Rory McIlroy on this golf course. And if someone's going to do it, like Mike said, it's going to be Scheffler or Bryson or Justin Thomas or Xander Schauffele. Like, it's not going to be some guy you've never heard of. You're like, man, I wish I had gotten on that at 400 to 1. It's just not going to happen.
Let's take a look, Josh, if you don't mind, at the odds board here, because I think what we're going to see is a lot of guys at the top that are, just like any other, by the way, signature event or major. Scottie Scheffler. I think what's intriguing, though, is looking at the numbers themselves, because we see Scottie and Rory at plus 450 and plus 500. That's a really good number over at BetMGM on Rory, by the way, because some of the numbers I've been seeing are in that 450 to 475 range. It doesn't sound like a big difference, but there's a 5 in front of Rory's number, and I think that's significant to point out. Interesting, though, the opposite is true for Bryson. I shouldn't say the opposite is true. Most books have Bryson in that 10, 11 to 1 range, but there are books that have him at 14 to 1 still. That's where I grabbed him. That's been my only outright bet so far. Then we have Ludwig at 18 to 1. And I got to be honest, I think Ludwig's a great course fit, but there's just 0% chance he's making my card. And I was on Ludwig this week, and I thought Ludwig would kind of turn it on with the ball striking, and it just hasn't totally been there. Colin at 20 to 1. John Rahm, I think, is very interesting at 20 to 1. Then we have JT, the 2017 winner, a guy who's been hot, who might win today at the Truist. We'll have to wait and see on that. And then we go down the board here. So, Mike, I'm going to start with you. It sounds like you like Bryson. Any other names from a value standpoint that are popping out here? I should mention Cantlay 33 to 1, Brooks Koepka 40 to 1.
Yeah, Bryson definitely is the top click for me, first click in. Other guys, for me, it's so hard to imagine one of Rory, Bryson, and Scottie not winning this. I think that they're just clearly the top 3 in this field. I think the gap to Bryson is a little too big in the market, especially when you're seeing Scottie at 4 to 1 and Bryson at 14 at a few spots, just considering the size of the field. So Bryson, the obvious choice for me. Let me tell you, other golfers that I would consider, I still like JT a little bit here. If I had to go pick someone that I think could do it, that's not, doesn't check the box on the distance, but has played very good golf this year, it would probably be Colin Morikawa at 20 or a little further. He lacks a little bit in distance relative to these guys, but he makes up for it with some of the longer irons. So I like him. As far as going down the board, there's not a lot that I love down the board. I don't mind Cantlay, but probably more appropriate in a top 20 market, or top 30 or 40 even, considering the size of this field. Now, the without market, I will play the without market again in this major, just to back Bryson. You can play Bryson. You see this at 11 to 1 on the screen. You can play Bryson at 10 to 1 right now without Scottie and Rory.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I like that quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's just plainly a good number. Jason, what sticks out to you?
As I said, I think it's going to be one of the big boys who wins this golf tournament. It's probably a single bullet outright play for me, and I'm leaning Rory right now just because of the course history, because of the form, because of the mental state right now. He's as it's been put by several people already, he's already won golf. He's got it. Whatever happens for the rest of his career, like, he did it. He's accomplished what he wanted to accomplish. And so I think that not weighing on his mind and not tugging on his shoulders anymore is a massive benefit moving forward. That doesn't mean that I absolutely think Rory's going to win and Scottie or Bryson or JT, who are the other top 3, at least on my list, can't win. It's that you can't, in the outright market, bet all 4 of those guys and go, oh, look at me, I did it, pat myself on the back, picked a winner. It doesn't work that way. I know there are a lot of people on social media who are like, yeah, I'm going to take Scottie, Rory, Bryson, Ludwig, Colin, Rahm, JT, and Xander for my outrights this week. And then when one of them wins, go, hey, look at me, another winner, I picked
4 in a row.
That's not how we do things around here.
No, that's totally fair. Interesting here, Mike. I do have a question for you when it comes to the live players, because I see, Rahm is on here, Joaquin Niemann is on here. You mentioned something about tee to green play with Bryson. Because I know modeling is it's all about the inputs, right? And that's why you're so successful, because your inputs are really good. Now, when you look at tee to green, for example, for a Bryson or really anybody on live, are you looking at what they've done in majors, or are you looking at the live stats as well?
A little bit of both. But to your point, the reason why I do think I've had some success, I spend a lot of time doing it, and people that are like pure data scientists will hate the way that I operate, because it is a very manual process. And I use a different sample size for nearly every golfer in the field. I use my knowledge of the game. I use how I pay attention, and I weight certain things in certain situations for each individual player. And someone who, loves the math, loves the data would hate that. Right. So I blend a lot of that, and I do pick and choose, what I think is valuable. But there's no doubt that playing in a major championship is far more meaningful to Bryson DeChambeau right now. You watch, it's literally what the guy is living and breathing for, is the opportunity to go compete at majors still. And that is something that I love. Now, I will say I've been a fan of Jon Rahm throughout his career. I cannot get to where Rahm is still on odds boards. Now at MGM, it's a little more respectable at 20. Rahm's floating around out there at 15 right now still. And to me, I don't see it. I need to see it in action. Like, yes, he's flashed good signs, but I'm just not quite there. So I ignore some of Rahm, or, some of what the data might still say. I very much buy in on Bryson. The last thing I wanted to comment about this board, again, remember that this is not a limited field event. We've got 154 golfers. Because of that, yes, we all kind of agree it's kind of like a limited event. It's probably going to come from the top of the top winning. But I think that Scottie and Rory's numbers are a little too short because of having 154 professional golfers essentially in the field. I won't take an outright on Scottie or Rory to start, only because it's the classic case of you've got the strength of the field right behind them. Unless we're talking about a 5-6 shot lead after round one, I think that I can get more information. And again, I'd rather back Scottie or Rory at plus 280 or plus 300 with 18 less holes to play and a ton more information. Right. So that's where I'm going to be. I'm going to play Bryson pre-tournament, and then I'll be watching pretty aggressively on those other two and buying with, as late as I possibly can, basically.
It's interesting too, Mike. You just answered Joseph Bose's question, and we talk about these odds a lot as it relates to Scottie specifically. He says, "Are Scottie's odds at plus 450 correct? Considering last time we saw him, he ran away at TPC Craig Ranch with the win." He ran away feels like almost like an understatement. But Mike, when we're talking about plus 450 on anybody, but particularly Scottie or even Rory, who's not quite plus 450, the implied odds versus his actual odds to win, like those are always going to be off, right, Mike?
Almost always, yes. It would take you're paying a tax if you want to back Scottie Scheffler to go win. The fortunate thing is Rory's playing so well that it's eating into it just a little, but yeah, you're generally not going to have quote unquote value from like a modeling standpoint on either one of those pre-tournament.
I think what we have to remember too is, look, the three of us and everybody in the chat who usually shows up here on Sundays trying to find a good number somewhere, we're looking at this stuff on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. We get to a PGA Championship, and I know we've all got friends who are like, "Hey, I was going to throw a few bucks down on the PGA. Scottie, he won a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to take him." That's going to keep that number from getting any longer until, Scottie goes out and shoots 74 in the first round or whatever it might be, just because of the volume there is, just because of the handle that the books are getting, because the public wants to go bet on a major championship, and the public doesn't know, strokes gained off the tee for Patrick Cantlay this year, but the public's like, I don't know, I'm going to bet, and Scottie's really good, so I'm going to bet him. That's how that happens, and that's what keeps that number from getting any longer than it is right now.
I do want to ask about one other guy. Let's see. As Patrick Cantlay is mentioned in the chat as it relates to the Truist, but when I look at his number for the PGA, I mean, people are asking about long shots, and we just said, hey, we're not really looking at long shots here. But when I look at Patrick Cantlay's number at, what is it, 45 to 1? Excuse me. It's 33 to 1. Can I just tell you? And listen, this is a classic case of shopping your lines. BetMGM has some better numbers than other books, and other books have much better numbers than BetMGM. It's just like that's why you have to have at least a couple of books. I see, I'll just be clear with everybody over at DK. It's 45 to 1. That is a huge contrast to the 33 we see here. And again, BetMGM has better odds in some cases here in a big way. So I'm just pointing out Patrick Cantlay here, but that sounds long shotish to me when you consider this field, Mike. Any thoughts on your guy? You had him at the truest, and Jason, I know you did too. 45 to 1. Is it if you're taking one of those shorter shots, let's say Bryson at 14 to 1, and you want to just spend on one other guy, is Patrick Cantlay that guy at 45 to 1?
He's definitely going to be in contention there. I will say it's alarming to see numbers like that, but the reason you see numbers like that is just because of where Scottie and Rory and Bryson are, that really just eats into it. I'll give you a good example here so you can kind of, quantify it. I see Scottie 450 there, but he's 400 at other places. 400 plus 400 is 20%. That's saying he has a 20% chance to go win the tournament. And then you look down next and we'll call Rory 500. That's 16.7. So you've got 37% of the implied probability to two golfers. It just doesn't leave a lot left down there. So it's why you see guys like Cantlay at big eye-popping numbers. Having said that, 45 to 1, if I had to guess without running simulations on it yet, I'm guessing it would show some value. I'm guessing I'd probably have them 38, 39, somewhere in there.
Okay, so it's not that big of a contrast to what your number would be.
Yeah, it's not a huge contrast, but again, it's mostly because of that group at the top. And then again, Bryson, that's another 10% of win equity to Bryson on where I'm going to have him. So you're 50% equity to the top 4 golfers in the field, which is crazy. But yeah, a little bit of value on Cantlay. I would be stunned if he closed at 45. I think he probably closes, I would guess, 35 universally across the industry.
Jason, I'm going to close here with you, although I do want Josh, if you can peek in, because I want to hear your outright pick for the PGA Championship as well. And then we are going to circle back to check in on the truest. But Jason, when we look at Rory, who it's likely that you're playing, I don't know if you said you've already played him. And I did a bad job setting Rory up because you might have said it, Jason, 5-time winner at Quail Hollow, which is like, is it only 4? I thought it was 5.
Yeah,
okay. 4-time winner. Well, maybe I'm foreshadowing the 5th.
Exactly. I like
there
that.
You go.
Jason, is there a long shot-ish guy that's not a true long shot, but the numbers kind of indicate they're maybe longer than they should be, that you would maybe tag along with a potential Rory outright?
Not right now. I don't think. I really think it's going to be from the top of the board. And quite honestly, if I get Rory at 5 to 1, I just don't like the idea of tacking on a whole bunch of others, even if it's 1 or 2 others that are down the board. It's sort of like you're either all in or you're not. But that said, there are a lot of players I like in the top 10, top 20 market who come in playing well. I mean, I'm gonna reel off a bunch of names here of guys that are, it's not any secrets here whatsoever, but we mentioned that Sungjae Im, Sam Burns matchup earlier for today's Truist Championship final round. I like both of those guys going into the PGA next week. Patrick Reed tied for second place the last time they played here. He was up there in the top 5 of the Masters just last month. We talk about players on LIV like Bryson who wait and bring their best stuff to the majors. Patrick Reed is the epitome of that as well. I think Patrick Reed's going to have a nice week, although it's a pretty long golf course for him. Guys that have been playing well on the PGA Tour this year. Daniel Berger is a guy that I've been on as much as anybody so far. Harris English. Akshay Bhatia plays this golf course a lot when he's back home and plays it really well. Maverick McNeely's got a little too much variance for me right now for that top 20 type play, but if you're looking for a longer shot that can win, McNeely's probably that guy. Jason Day, after withdrawal this week and didn't give a reason for it, I'm a little hesitant, but it's more like a DFS play. Like, I think there's a lot of leverage to get on a guy who's got that red tag next to his name still. If you're looking at DFS, I think Jason Day, as long as it's not some massive injury, he had the sniffles or something like that, which he's withdrawn with in the past. I think Jason Day has been playing some really nice golf, and I like him. And then another member of Quail Hollow who isn't the longest one out there, but who's playing well at Myrtle Beach right now, is Mackenzie Hughes. Putts really well on fast greens.
I think the Jason Day withdrawal is pretty, like, potentially a big issue. Mike, this is a back issue, correct? And a potential like herniation or something like that. Not trying to diagnose the guy, but that's what I was hearing.
Yeah, I'm not super up on what's happening with him, honestly. But it has to be a concern as it's happened multiple times this season.
Yeah, I don't know if it was his back or his neck. I'm seeing sort of conflicting things on that. And again, maybe that could be sloppy reporting and me just kind of peddling sloppy reporting. But my understanding was that.
You're right. It says Dan Rappaport reported disc herniation in his neck area. I don't look. Been there, done that. I take everything with Jason Day with a grain of salt. Look, I'm not going to call him soft. If you want to call him soft, I might not disagree with you, but he is known to not play golf when he's not exactly 100%. And he's also known to come back from not being what he thinks is 100% and play some really good golf afterwards. Again, I think it's more of a leverage play in certain markets, which is more DFS than betting, I think. But I would not be surprised if everyone has a big X next to Jason Day's name because there's an injury, and then all of a sudden he goes out there and finishes in 7th place next week, and we're like, I thought he was hurt. Should have said something.
Yeah, a lot of WDs this week. Joseph Boza pointing out Sahith, Justin Rose, and Michael Kim all WD'd. So these are, along with Jason Day, going to have to monitor these guys. And I do want to point out, for those of you listening on the podcast and not watching the live show on the SportsLine YouTube channel, Mike, you did type into the chat that Patrick Reed at 80-1 might be a click for you. Can you just expound upon that real quick? And then Josh, jump in. I want to hear your PGA Championship winner.
Yeah, so I think that it's going to play pretty difficult out there. So I don't think we're talking, super, super low scoring, which I think benefits a guy like Reed just kind of lurking, hanging around. He like, not to the level of Bryson necessarily, but he definitely elevates his level of play at major championships. So I like that there. I'm going to, it's a very small position on an outright for him, but I am very close to making a pretty big position on Patrick Reed in a top 40 market. It is a -140 price point. That's top 40, including ties. If Patrick Reed makes the cut, I think that he likely finishes between 15th and 35th in this event, right? I love the number at -140 or better on a top 40, including ties. Would probably be a multi-unit play for me on Patrick Reed, top 40, -140.
Yeah, Reed has some good history at Quail Hollow too, I believe. Jason, go ahead.
Little update: Rory McIlroy birdie on 1, nearly drove the green on 2. He's got 13 feet left for birdie to get to 10 under.
All right, these are vibes going into the PGA Championship for sure. Josh, can you drop in? Do we know who your, and maybe you haven't determined it yet, do we know who your PGA Championship lean or outright is?
I think it's Bryson. I think it's a bit overcomplicating it to go more than 3 or 4 deep on the board pre-tournament. Korea was Bryson's best approach week since the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. That would have been the only thing in this period after the Masters that would have given me pause, because otherwise it's a perfect golf course for him. He hit his irons really, really well in Korea, won, and we of course know everything else he's bringing. So I think that's where it is right now. And I certainly don't think he's, 2 times less likely to win this event than Rory or Scottie, which is the suggestion. I mean, more than 2 times.
More than 2 times.
Which I think is just a little, I just think that's incorrect at this point. So getting him at longer than 10-1, and as high as we saw as 14-1, I think is pretty crazy, to be honest with you.
I mean, especially when you can grab him at 10-1, where he is sitting without the top 2. I mean, he profiles well for this course. His recent history is great, both at majors and on live. And his recent major history has been great. Like, there's not, I mean, this is golf, so he could have a bad tournament. I mean, anybody could, but he just checks all the boxes. So I totally agree. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our coverage, at least for today on a Sunday, of the PGA Championship. So much more coming with the 7 o'clock DFS show on Monday, the betting show on Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We've got the live chat, and actually we're going to be all over CBS Sports Network. I think in the hour between 12 and 1, pretty much every day, we're going to be on CBS Sports Network, specifically profiling the PGA Championship. So whether it's on the SportsLine YouTube channel or on CBS Sports Network, you're going to want to dial in. Thanks for joining us for the PGA Championship early look.